Welcome to Sci-Fi Quantum Archives. Don't forget to like, subscribe and explore. No warning tones sounded across the Earthside feed. No emergency flares lit up the diagnostics wall. The data packet arrived without ceremony. Time-stamped, encrypted, compressed to less than 40 kilobytes. It bypassed half the routine filters. Just another check-in, it seemed, routed through the aging orbital relay swinging behind Deimos. Nothing unusual. At first, the technician who opened it had been halfway through a vending machine sandwich, fingertips slick with processed grease. He blinked at the checksum error, then clicked replay. No image. No telemetry. Only audio. 6 seconds of static. Then a voice. Raw. Dry. Mouth too close to the mic, choked by pressure, oxygen-starved, perhaps. Just one word, torn through compression like a whisper dragged across metal. Run. Nothing else followed. No signature. No ID tag. No timestamp discrepancy. Just the weight of that one word, cutting through 40 million miles of space like a cracked tooth in the dark. The replay log showed nothing abnormal. Automated systems marked it low priority. But the tech sat frozen, staring at the waveform. His supervisor heard it next. Then 2 engineers. Within the hour, Mission Command had cleared 2 channels and locked the mainline comms to manual override. Protocols triggered in layers. First curiosity, then concern, then procedural escalation. Because ST-74 was overdue for check-in. Not by much. Just enough to make it plausible. Just enough to ignore if the day had been busier. But there was that word. Run. The logbook on Station 74 showed no malfunctions, no weather delays, no crew complaints in the previous uplink. Last report included seismic readings, a supply inventory, a birthday message to a son on Earth. Normal. Painfully normal. Nothing even close to warranting panic. Still, the silence that followed the signal grew heavier by the minute. Attempts to re-establish contact failed. No handshake from the relay. No pingbacks. Only the hollow silence of a dead sky where light takes minutes just to say hello. Earth kept calling. Hours passed. Multiple channels. Backup frequencies. Emergency hails. No carrier signal. No telemetry. Only drift. Analysts scoured the shortwave burst again. Signal integrity verified. No corruption. Voice confirmed to be human, male, stress modulated. Likely sent from an internal suit, mic likely sent manually. The data silo for ST-74's mission files got mirrored across 3 hardened servers by sunset. Security audit flagged the packet for deep review. A team of 10 sat in a locked debrief room, replaying the waveform until its single syllable began to feel like a pulse. Not a command. Not a warning. Something else. Something that pressed against the spine in a way no language could soften. Nobody said it aloud, but the room carried a new kind of silence. The kind that pressed tight behind the ribs. Late that night, someone pulled up the old ST-74 site schematic. Habitat layout. Drilling logs. Last camera sync. Environmental stats. It had all been there, archived like clockwork. Everything fine. Everything smooth. Except one thing. The emergency beacon at ST-74 had never activated. Whatever sent that transmission bypassed it. No automated warning. No programmed distress protocol. Just a single human voice choosing one word. Run. By morning, Mission Control marked the site as non-responsive. 2 deep monitoring satellites rerouted for direct observation. High-resolution scans initiated. Nothing visible on the Martian surface showed damage. Still no signal. No motion. No trace. Sunlight stretched low across Valles Marineris, sharp and colorless through the dust-thin air. 6 suited figures moved across the slope, boots compressing red powder into muted prints. Their helmets caught the light like scratched glass bulbs. Voices passed between them through closed comms, thin, efficient, nothing wasted. ST-74's mission profile ran clean. 10 weeks, 2 boreholes, ice core extraction from below the 5th sedimentary layer. Everything timed. Everything logged. The crew came from different nations but shared one discipline. Geologist, engineer, field medic, orbital systems tech, habitation specialist, mission lead. No weak links. First week brought only what was expected. Wind over loose terrain. Equipment calibration. Habitat pressure checks. The usual fatigue from gravity just off-center enough to feel personal. They moved like people used to protocol. Personal conversations stayed short, locked behind sealed doors or whispered through hydroponic chambers. The feed from Earth ran on delay. Each message came back half an hour older than it was. Time stretched quietly out there. Inside the habitat, the routine hardened like cooling steel. Sleep shifted between 6-hour rotations. Meals came from foil packs labeled by number, not taste. No one asked for music. No one needed jokes. Their rhythm was one of tools, meters, soft beeps of confirmation. Progress happened without celebration. By day 14, Drillby breached through the projected capstone layer. Ice revealed itself in cracked crystal sheets, pressured against soil with a density beyond initial survey numbers. One of them called it beautiful, just once, not repeated. The samples held deep oxygen content and frozen compounds dating back longer than surface estimates allowed. Each core pulled from the shaft came up colder than the one before, internal temperature lagging environmental averages. It caught attention. Raised no alarms. By day 20, seismic mapping showed an anomaly. Beneath the borehole, terrain density shifted without an obvious cause. A hollowed section appeared in the imaging. Smooth curves, no fault lines. The cavern sat roughly 40 meters below the current shaft. Calculations suggested a sealed pocket, older than most sediment layers above it. Discussion remained technical. The habitat's central terminal displayed new terrain overlays, modeled in grayscale. No votes took place. No long debate. Just recalibrations. Drill extension authorized. Each day after that, silence deepened. The crew moved more carefully. Spoke less. Internal logs remained factual. No emotional flags. No disputes recorded. The atmosphere in the habitat cooled, though systems reported stable air temperature. Outside, winds scoured the valley floor in thin, useless gusts. Dust collected against the station's supports like a whisper that refused to stop speaking. One night, the hydroponic alarm tripped without reason. A false positive. Easily cleared. Still, someone began sleeping with the door unlatched. No one mentioned it. By day 31, the shaft reached 35 meters. Drills hit a soft compression pocket. Progress slowed. Vibration increased. One bore stabilizer snapped during routine operation and was replaced within 3 hours. No injuries. Not yet. The terrain scanner flickered once during night calibration. An engineer marked the anomaly as data noise. Low priority. A footnote. From orbit, everything remained normal. From inside, each shift felt longer. At breakfast, fewer faces gathered at once. Communication logs showed messages home had dropped by nearly half. No one noticed the change. Too many readings. Too many small tasks demanding attention. That's how things slip. Not in disaster, but in inches. By the time the logs noted the shaft depth at 42 meters, 2 days had passed without laughter in the common room. There had been a joke told on day 3. About a toaster back on Earth. No one remembered who said it. No one brought it up again. The cavern beneath them waited. Instruments registered no pressure differential. No thermal spike. Nothing measurable that would signal caution. Still, one of them paused before lowering the winch line on day 35. Gloved hands resting just above the control lever. Not hesitation, something quieter than that. A pause for no reason. The button was pressed. Cable unspooled. Contact reached. Signal tone logged. Nothing reported wrong. But when the next morning came, soil temperature at the base of the shaft had dropped 6 degrees. Without explanation. Without system error. No comments were made. Not in writing. Not on tape. The day's schedule resumed. Measurements recorded. Core extraction continued. A new section of drill was bolted into place. Wind outside grew still. Nothing moved but the data. Authorization came through in silence. No announcement. No celebration. The final approval to breach past mapped depth appeared as a single green icon on the habitat's control panel. No one questioned it. No one raised their voice. Drilling past the mapped limit meant entering territory unmodeled, unscanned, undocumented. Still, the protocol allowed it. Margin of uncertainty deemed acceptable. That morning, the habitat's interior felt colder, though thermostats disagreed. Gloves tugged tighter. Boots laced higher. Dust clung longer to the metal frame of the airlock door. Eyes moved slower across checklists. Nothing failed. Nothing malfunctioned. The drills were warmed early. Borehole sensors returned erratic readings before the shift started. Pressure oscillated without rhythm. Vibration logs began showing anomalies. Short pulses, irregular duration, low amplitude. The logbook recorded them under minor tectonic drift. Not uncommon. Not dangerous. The winch line was reinforced before descent. Every bolt on the lift housing was checked twice. A technician muttered something about metal fatigue before stepping back. The drill pushed forward. It didn't resist. Soil gave way faster than expected. Not loose. Wrong texture. Wrong shape. Each meter broke through too cleanly. As if something beneath wanted to open. At 60 meters, the shaft widened. Instruments flagged it, but the visual feed confirmed nothing. Just black. Too smooth. Not natural rock. Not collapsed sediment. A hollow space, uncut by machinery. Someone asked if it was a cavern. No one answered. Not right away. Environmental scanners couldn't map it. Readings bounced back with no pattern. The signal just vanished into air that shouldn't exist. Someone recalibrated the scope. Tried again. Same result. No heat signature. No reflection. No particles returned. Dust sensors showed zero movement. No wind. Just absence. The decision to lower the camera came quickly. The feed descended slow, 3 meters per second. Nothing appeared. Just shadow without depth. At 42 meters down the shaft, the feed cut. Not distortion. Not interference. Just flatline. The camera came back fused at the edges. No one spoke. In the control log, the damage report was filed under thermal fluctuation. Still, the drill moved forward. A secondary sensor pack was installed to compensate. It didn't last long. Less than 10 minutes after deployment, all internal circuits fried. Same result. Melted casing. Intact surface. Internal destruction. One engineer raised the question no one wanted to answer. Suggested a structural pause. Maybe halt extraction for analysis. Rerun topographic scans. Wait 2 sols. The request was acknowledged but overruled. Too much investment. Too much pressure. Timeline already tight. Cargo retrieval aligned with the next orbital window. No room for delay. So they kept going. Each vibration that came after registered closer, sharper, more defined. Still marked low risk. Still passed through seismic filters. One after another. At 70 meters, the drill bit caught on something harder than expected. Not rock. Not mineral. Something that held for 5 seconds before giving way. The sound on the feed carried a tone no one recognized. Metallic, but not human-made. Hollow, but not empty. It lasted just long enough to lodge in memory. Pressure at the top of the shaft dropped by 1/2 degree. No one moved. The habitat lights dimmed during the same minute, flickering once before returning to full. No alarms. Power checked fine. Systems remained stable. Below them, the shaft had opened into a chamber untouched by any light. Air pressure at the bottom of the borehole read as neutral. Impossible. There shouldn't have been any. Internal oxygen sensors began fluctuating in half-point intervals. Machines reset automatically every cycle. The numbers kept slipping. The soil above the chamber showed signs of shifting, not collapsing, just moving. Rearranging itself around the empty space. Slow. measured. Nobody slept that night. Lights stayed on across all modules. Outside, the dust stayed still again. The wind had stopped for 36 hours. No motion on the horizon. No sound except for filtered ventilation and the soft hum of cabin electronic. At breakfast, someone suggested sending down a second probe. No one disagreed. No one volunteered. Sleep routines fractured in increments too small to log. A 10-minute delay in lights off. A skipped melatonin dose. One crew member began waking 3 times during rest cycle, unable to recall why. Another adjusted their pillow 6 times before lying still. Movement, small and uncertain, replaced stillness. No one mentioned dreams. But by the 4th soul past breach, shared fatigue began curling around the habitat like condensation on metal. Speech patterns slowed. Jokes missed their landing. Breakfast trays stayed unfinished. 2 crew reported migraines within 12 hours of each other. No fever. No infection. Just persistent ache behind the eyes, pressure building with every rotation near the drilling shaft. Oxygen mix read normal. Radiation levels unchanged. They logged the symptoms. Took acetaminophen. Returned to duty. During a recalibration shift, the bore feed failed. A short pulse of static blanked the screen. Manual override restored visuals. No damage to cabling. No anomalies in electrical flow. Fault unrepeatable. Later that same day, soil extracted from 30 centimeters above the breach showed color deviation. Not dramatic. Just slightly too dark, streaked with gray that didn't match mapped strata. When compressed under sample pressurization, fragments fractured along unnatural lines, shards instead of powder. Geochemical analysis returned known elements arranged in unfamiliar configurations. No extraterrestrial compound, no contamination. But bonds responded to pressure oddly, as if structure folded into itself before breaking. Files logged. Tagged for deep analysis post-return. The matter ended there. In the evenings, footsteps grew heavier. Not louder, just slower. Weight distributed differently. Shoulders slumped inward more often. Back panels of the habitat began showing slight dents at resting points, places where boots leaned too long, too hard, too still. One of the crew forgot to log hydration 3 days in a row. When asked, they didn't remember the lapse. The onboard medical system flagged it, but the issue resolved itself. At least on paper. Internal audio logs captured fragments of tension. Voices raised not in anger but impatience. Commands repeated. Instructions clarified multiple times. The delay between question and response widened. Words lost weight. A maintenance technician paused mid-task for 23 seconds. Stared at an open panel without moving. No error recorded. Tools remained untouched on the floor. When movement resumed, no acknowledgement followed. Sensor drift on external monitors was noted but dismissed. A minor recalibration issue. The numbers returned within range on second pass. Still, one reading captured air pressure flux near the shaft entrance, out of rhythm with standard Martian variants. Labeled sensor fatigue. At least one log recorded whispering in the lower comms loop, though the sound file contained no identifiable word. Background noise, likely feedback. The technician who flagged it removed their headset 3 times during diagnostic. Reinserted it each time without explanation. Lighting in Module B dimmed twice during meal prep. The fault isolated to one fixture. Replacement ordered. No recurrence noted. Still, meals after that began to cool untouched. Across the surface, dust ceased movement entirely. Solar panels accumulated no sediment. A curiosity, not a concern. Wind models adjusted accordingly. Atmospheric quiet could happen. Water reclamation filters slowed. Not by much. A drop in flow rate. Less than 3%. Still, the numbers accumulated. None of the changes shouted. They arrived in whispers. In undone shoelaces. In repeated steps. In missed timestamp. In the soft clink of metal against metal during sleep. Something had shifted. Not outside. Inside. The shift began without alarms. No tremor warnings. No pressure drop. No atmospheric anomaly. Just a single jolt. Short. Shallow. Enough to slide a coffee pouch across a table. Enough to knock a wrench off a shelf without breaking it. Power snapped off before anyone spoke. Lights gone. Monitors blank. Habitat systems froze in place, stripped of noise. 4 or 5 seconds, the station sat inside its own outline, breath held between functions, lights off, heat falling. Then the backups clicked in. Not all at once. In stages. Lights stuttered awake in patches. Console screens blinked as if waking from sedation. Airflow resumed in a slow, hesitant rhythm. One terminal refused to restart. Manual override failed. Diagnostics returned no result. Outside, seismic log flashed red. Not for magnitude. For location. The quake had hit directly beneath the shaft. The data pulled up clean. Magnitude 2.6. No surface damage. But it hadn't behaved like Martian tremors usually did. No aftershock. No radial pattern. Just a pulse, sharp, vertical, immediate. No damage reported across habitat integrity. Still, no one returned to casual tone after power resumed. Boots moved softer. Doors closed slower. That same hour, one drone was lowered into the shaft for structural scan. Standard protocol. Compact unit. 3 rotors. Infrared equipped. Descent initiated. Feed began clear. Walls tight. No water intrusion. Just stone and packed regolith. Normal. 30 meters. 40. 50. Ground level visible beneath artificial lighting. At 60, the signal broke once. Static burst. Frame distortion. Visual returned. No change in terrain. At 64, second disruption. Longer. White band streaked across display. Transmission resumed. Drone pivoted. Rotated 30 degrees. Caught something. Frame blurred. Structure in background bent out of alignment. Looked like collapse in progress. No alarm. No dust. No debris in motion. Just that frame. One moment. Then nothing. Signal cut. Final recorded image showed a clean shaft wall, but timestamp flagged error. Camera feed dropped 1 second behind live track. Then 2. Then dead. Drone failed to return signal. Winch began retrieval. Unit returned 12 minutes later, intact in shape but wrong in condition. Rear panel blistered. Rotor joints melted in places where contact shouldn't occur. Camera housing half torn from frame. Internal temperature logged at 40 degrees above expected. No source found. Storage unit sealed. Data pulled. Playback froze 3 separate systems. Footage wouldn't transfer without corruption. Fragmented stills recovered showed image tearing across structural grid. Subsurface displacement lines had formed below the borehole. A fault line. One engineer pointed to tension buildup, argued for immediate withdrawal. Another noted pressure differentials too narrow to predict future shift. Containment breach risk climbed with each hour. Discussion reached no conclusion. Voices tightened. Fatigue carved lines under eyes. No one left their post. Meal pouches unopened on metal trays. Oxygen filters hummed with slight irregularity. Not loud. Just enough to notice if silence settled too long. The station's lead remained seated. Reviewed all available data twice. Replayed every image. Watched each disruption. Read through seismic logs. Final decision logged. No evacuation. Containment maintained. Extraction timeline unchanged. The room did not respond. No agreement. No protest. Just movement. Slower. Less certain. The shaft outside waited. Nothing inside made a sound. Mission clock marked 72 hours until scheduled extraction. No one acknowledged it aloud. A digital counter glowed above the comm station, reducing time in soft, incremental step. Each tick forward felt heavier than the last. Water collection from the lower chamber commenced under revised protocols. A reinforced intake tube lowered through the breach. Modified filter heads, dual-sealed tank. No external pressure anomalies. Flow initiated on schedule. The line filled slowly, stuttering once before stabilizing. First tank sealed without issue. Temperature of the collected fluid came in colder than ambient. Much colder. Equipment showed no malfunction. Air inside the habitat thickened. Not in volume, not by measure, just weight. Sentences shortened. Eyes shifted faster. Someone coughed during briefing and no one looked up. The second extraction cycle began 3 hours later. Flow slowed midway. Gauge readings dipped. Thermal map of the chamber below brightened in patches. No source. No pattern. Not gas. Not surface contact. Just irregular heat blooms across the stone shelf beneath the shaft. At 1,700, raised voices caught on the overhead recorder. One sentence clipped. Disagreement over oxygen levels. Someone accused the other of mistiming the exchange cycle. Denial followed. Another voice entered, sharper. Words collided. Pacing quickened. Metal clanged. Something knocked from a shelf. Silence. Then movement. Fast. Off angle. Two bodies collided near the tool bench. One thrown back into the wall. Impact sound. Sharp intake of breath. A shout. Words lost under motion. Medical subroutine initiated. Footage cut at impact. Resume frame showed one crewmember seated against the support beam, right shoulder pressed flat against metal. Hand curled against the side of their face. No blood visible, but jaw misaligned. Breathing uneven. The other figure stood frozen, arms low, not reaching forward, not backing away. Internal system assigned isolation to Habitat Med Bay. No disciplinary action entered. No apology recorded. The injured remained separated for observation. Kept under low light, reduced comms. No movement outside recorded parameters. Vitals logged without incident. Inside the main chamber, no discussion continued. Meal hour passed. All trays untouched. The shaft remained open. Thermal sensors marked new fluctuations at 0-200. Sharp climb. Not constant. Sharp lines across data plots, like something snapping at precise intervals. No quake. No external impact. Only inside. Beneath. The water from the third cycle came up darker. Not discolored, opaque. Holding suspended matter that didn't separate under standard filtration. Sample pulled. Logged. Sealed in triple casing. Analysis scheduled for post-mission return. No one entered notes about the change in light quality across the habitat walls. Cameras caught it. Nothing dramatic. Just dimmer. Shadows drawn longer where light had once fallen evenly. No source found. No electrical variance. Sleep cycles grew shorter. One crewmember stood motionless in the center of the airlock chamber for 13 minutes. No task assigned. No log entry. Just stillness. Head turned toward the shaft. When spoken to, they responded without delay. Claimed they had been checking pressure seals. No data supported the claim. No further questions asked. The countdown continued. The alarm tore through the habitat in the middle of night cycle. No warning tones, just a burst, shrill, irregular, raw. Lights snapped on in sequence too fast for the eyes to adjust. Breath caught in throat. Sleepless bodies already half awake jolted upright as if pulled by wire. No drill movement. No quake. Just a breach signal on the lower shaft, blinking red with no diagnostic to explain why. Systems flagged atmospheric drop in the auxiliary chamber. Not full decompression, something partial, uneven. Internal gravity in that section buckled by half a point before data feeds stalled. Cameras shut down. Thermal scans showed nothing but blank white where rock layers should be. Secondary shaft collapsed 6 minutes into the alert. No shudder felt through the main habitat, but motion sensors on the external track lines recorded sudden vertical displacement. Monitors failed to project the extent. Only one thing was clear. The entire second access tunnel was gone. A call came over comms, short, clipped, not requesting help, just location data. The medic had gone to retrieve a sample case left behind during the last water extraction cycle. Not protocol. No authorization. Not necessary. No one reached the entrance in time. By the time the door was pried open manually, pressure sensors on the outer seal had flatlined. Readings on the suit's internal telemetry showed rapid decompression followed by silence. Helmet feed cut on impact. One image logged. Gloved hand against steel, motion blurred, no sound. No voice returned. Confirmation came 10 minutes later. Only one suit transponder registered inside the tunnel. Station status updated automatically. No human confirmed the death. No voice spoke the name. Something in the room shifted after that. Not volume. Not tone. Just posture. Every back straightened too fast. Every sentence shortened past recognition. Authority no longer mattered. Eyes met only to break away. Manual override was attempted before anyone else arrived. 2 crew at the airlock. Gloves half-fastened. Transport logs not updated. Sequence flagged as non-compliant. The hatch seal engaged. Code blocked. A third person interrupted, demanding to know who gave permission. No one answered. Fingers moved toward keypad again. A fist caught one hand midair. Voices rose, sharper now. Language fractured. Every syllable jagged. Restraint no longer mattered. Accusations flung like loose gear across steel plating. One figure stood between them, arms out. Breathing uneven. No one backed away. Power to the external ramp disabled from central command. Override cancelled. No one moved to sit down after. Emergency supply crates remained unopened in the rear module. No one reached for water. One paced the corridor outside the comms room for 41 minutes, never once speaking. Pressure outside the habitat normalized by measure but not by instinct. The air inside pressed differently against skin, as if it knew the shape of things before they collapsed. No further orders came. No one asked what would happen next. The clock kept counting. Faint glow over the console still showed hours left before launch window. No one planned for that much time. The final hours left no doubt. Surveillance footage recovered from the onboard system ran in fragments, as if time had snapped in places too brittle to hold. First came shouting, no direction, no command, just raw voice lashing through the narrow halls. Warning lights painted everything in sharp red intervals. Faces passed the lens in erratic motion, some turned upward, others hunched low, none pausing long enough to register who still counted among the living. Footsteps thudded against steel plates, sometimes in pairs, sometimes alone. Equipment cases overturned, data drives pulled from their housings without labeling, cables torn mid-transfer. One screen showed someone punching the emergency locker open with their forearm. Blood smeared across the latch. No bandages followed. Oxygen levels collapsed in silence. There were no alarms to mark it. No piercing alert to cue the body. Just the numbers dropping, 0.3, 0.2, 0.1, while breathing patterns remained unchanged. No one noticed until balance shifted. Knees hit metal. Hands gripped walls. Gas monitors failed to update. Internal logs showed a spike in concentration readings from the lower shaft, followed by a surge in thermal output beneath the main module. Temperatures rose 4 degrees in under 90 seconds. Suit seals flagged but remained locked. Cooling systems hit max cycle. Manual resets attempted. No result. Camera 2 lost feed. Camera 3 caught the moment pressure equalized with the external tunnel. Something cracked just once. Not metal. Not rock. Something soft collapsing from within. Someone reached the emergency uplink. Body leaning too far forward. Left hand dragging along the bulkhead. Right hand on the console. No code entered. No full message type. Just the uplink activated and voice spoken raw into the system. One syllable, no modulation, unfiltered, pulled from the throat like a final breath held too long. Run. The transmission ended mid-frame. No send confirmation. No signal bounce. Power failed completely 7 seconds later. Footage from the internal corridor showed one last shadow breaking across the wall, tall, fast, shape indiscernible. No footfalls. Just movement that pressed the air out of the room without sound. Blackout. No backup engaged. No more audio. Only the residual heat signature in the shaft's lower chamber, climbing past measurable thresholds before vanishing without decline. One breath. One word. One signal. No one else answered. The report arrived sealed, unsigned, printed in grayscale. No insignia on the front cover. Just a timestamp, mission code, and the word final. 73 pages reviewed by 12 people in 2 days. No witness statements. No transcript. Just compiled data, interrupted feeds, fractured telemetry, oxygen logs, seismic records, environmental readings from surface to subfloor. Every number lined up. Every graph formed a line someone had the language to explain. No sabotage. No foreign contamination. No exposure to unknown biology. No radiation burst. No artificial signatures. No communications from external sources. Nothing that would hint at another presence inside or out. What remained was raw calculation, a mistake in judgment scaled up into extinction. At 69 meters, the pressure shifted. At 71, the internal fault began its climb. Beneath the borehole sat a dormant cavity stretched across 2 sediment layers. Geological profiles missed the instability by a margin too small to be useful now. The breach had triggered a chain collapse. Soil structure compressed inward, channeling heat from mineral friction and gas release. Oxygen loss followed. Systems failed one after another. No escape path viable. The findings were clinical, noted without emphasis. The incident was attributed to human oversight compounded by operational pressure and schedule constraints. The decision to extract water directly from beneath an unmapped cavern was deemed premature. Safety review protocols had not been updated to reflect recent changes in Martian subsurface modeling. Responsibility distributed thinly, spread across departments until no line pointed cleanly to one name. The emergency transmission was analyzed 12 times. The voice matched known samples. No distortion. No alteration. It was determined that the speaker had accessed the uplink alone. No second voice recorded. No distress message attempted. Just that single word, stripped of context, sent as systems died behind it. Not a call for help. Not an instruction. A signal of last resort. The survivor's action was filed under commendable final initiative. One notation marked in margin, transmitted with awareness of failure, indicates intent to warn, not to escape. That sentence remained untouched through all revision rounds. The station's designation was officially retired. All assets marked as unrecoverable. No attempt would be made to salvage remains or return to the site. The orbiting satellite would be reassigned after trajectory decay. Its visual logs erased after archiving. No ceremony held. No public release. No names spoken outside secure corridors. The mission would remain classified as an engineering failure. But inside the review room, behind the procedural calm and cold fluorescence, no one raised a question about the words sent across millions of miles. Because they had all heard it. Because no one forgot the silence that followed. High above the Martian equator, the satellite drifted without urgency. Solar panels angled toward a cold sun. No transmission requests queued. No command packets waiting in buffer. Just silence. Thin and constant. Machine perfect. Below, the coordinates assigned to station ST-74 no longer matched the ground beneath. The terrain had changed. Elevation dropped by nearly 4 meters. Craters softened. Ridges broken. What remained was a sheet of red, smooth and unbroken, as if a hand had swept across the surface to hide the shape of what stood there before. No structures visible. No antenna. No shadow from the habitat's spine. The satellite's imaging feed scrolled without annotation. High-resolution capture showed dust patterns unchanged over 7 sols. Wind speed measured at less than 1 meter per second. Enough to cover tracks, not enough to erase weight. Infrared returned uniform readings. No thermal variance, no heat pocket, no buried energy signature. Just rock, cold and even. Radar pulse failed to penetrate deeper than 2 meters. Subsurface integrity logged as loose particulate. Shifted recently. Still settling. Every hour the satellite rotated back across the hemisphere. Every hour the same image returned. No request made to adjust trajectory. No orbital scan authorized beyond standard protocol. The mission archive closed with no addendum. At the end of the comms log, inside a subfolder marked with the station's last timestamp, sat one file. Audio. 6 seconds. Uncompressed. Played once at full volume across a closed terminal room. It required no translation. Run. No other signal followed. None ever would. Thank you for watching and sticking with me to the end. Now, if you believe humanity deserves a future among the stars, do subscribe now. Only those who'd abandon Earth to its fate will scroll past.